Hey everyone, welcome back to Slay Tray Thursday. This week we're going to be giving some thanks, and I wanted to take a minute and do that. I'm not really great at doing the whole camera thing, as we've all noticed, but I did want to say thank you to everyone who shows up every week or every other week and hangs out and puts up with the chaos and the glitter and the mess, the dropped video footage, all the things that make this channel. I also wanted to say thank you to Beverly and to Kathy for letting me be a part of this in spite of all of the chaos that I bring. Honestly, I had kind of stopped making resin pieces for a while just because I just was so unmotivated. And Beverly was like, hey, come be a part of our collaboration. And it has made such a huge difference in so many different parts of my life. So I wanted to say thank you to both of them. They are amazing, and I am so grateful that they allow me to be a part of this. So I hope you all have the most wonderful holiday, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for Gingerbread House. But for now, let's dive in to give thanks, and let's just say that it doesn't go as planned, but it never does. So thank you guys.
I don't know what it is about this mold, but every time I use it, I feel like it is more wonky than the last time. It's misshapen in all the wrong places. And so I'm constantly putting things around it to try to keep it into the right shape. I think it's probably time to break down and buy a new mold. It's also a massive dust magnet, but I think they all are. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up about 5-6 ounces of resin, and I'm going to make it like a sage-ish green. My thought is that I'm going to do a sage green background, a very, very thin layer, and then I'm going to come back in once that's cured, and I'm going to put down some wheat, like some dried wheat and some dried bunny tails, and then cover that in clear resin, and then we'll have a tray. And I'm not sure how that's going to work. I don't typically use dried flowers or dried anything in my resin because it holds on to bubbles and things like that. So it'll be an interesting adventure. This will be a super, super thin layer of resin. So I'm just going to kind of manipulate it around the mold. I'm going to blast it with the heat gun just to get out any bubbles. Of course, because this layer of resin is so super thin, I have to be really careful. I don't want to accidentally fuse the mold to the resin, or fuse the resin to the mold. It's the same thing, right? So I'm trying to just make sure I'm keeping my heat gun moving around so that way we don't have too much heat in any one area. I'm going to finish this piece up, or this part up, and then I'm going to let it cure. Because it's so thin, it's not going to it'll cure, but it's still going to be bendy, which is fine because we'll come back in and we're going to put extra layers on it. So that's not going to be a big deal. But I'm going to give it about 24 hours to let it cure up as much as it's going to. And then we'll come back in and we'll do the next layer. And 24 hours later, we are ready to put our wheat and our bunny tails in. So I did go ahead and pre-mix up resin. I mixed up 8 ounces. I did use my very favorite Timu resin. I know that's not always the most popular, but I do still love it. I guess we'll see what happens over time, but I've been using it for about a year now, and I still love it. So that's pretty exciting. So I'm just I should have done this ahead of time, right? Hindsight is always so important, but I should have done this ahead of time, and I didn't. I should have measured it and then trimmed everything up, but I was so excited, I just didn't do that part. So it would have been good to do that piece before letting the resin sit, but I guess by letting the resin sit, it also thickens up a little bit, which is good since that will keep things from moving around too much. So I am just going to go through and I'm going to kind of cut off the stems of everything so that it fits the way I want it to. I'm not sure why I thought that this was going to be a good plan. I don't know why, but I was so excited. And then as I started to execute it, I was thinking this isn't really working out exactly how I had envisioned it. But that's okay, right? Because we just carry on and we figure it out as we go. We have a contingency plan. Let's go with that piece. You know what it's like when you have a plan in your head and you like think about, yeah, I want it to look like this. But then you start to do this piece and then you're like, huh, this looked so much different in my head. Well, that's kind of where I'm at with this one. I poured in my resin and then once again, it's a pretty thin layer. So I just wanted to make sure that I could get all the bubbles out. So I did go over it for quite a bit with the heat gun, just kind of making sure that I could eliminate as many of those bubbles as possible. So from the very beginning, I didn't love the color in the background. It was a little too light. I wanted it to be a little darker, but I can live with that. It's still kind of, the green and the pink and the wheat color, they all kind of go together. But this is where things started to go off the rails. Yeah, those bunny tails, they're quite fluffy, quite fluffy. And when they're quite fluffy in a mold that's only about a half inch deep, well, it's really important that you test for fit ahead of time. Some people are very good at planning and some people are not. And I fall into that latter category. Ideally, I would have taken and made the backside of the bunny tail flat so that it would have laid flat against the mold and all would have been well because it would have taken off, a quarter of an inch, maybe a little bit more, and all would have been fantastic. But you see, I didn't think about that ahead of time. I just thought the mold is infinitely deep and it'll be fine. And so don't do me. Do your measurements ahead of time, and if you need a little bit of extra room, shave off the back side of something that's going to be a little bit too large before you get to this part and you go, that looks like it might not fit quite that well. And then if you do get to this part where you're like, I don't know if this is going to fit, instead of continuing on, take a pause, pull the bunny tails out or pull out whatever you have in there, adjust it and then move on. Don't just don't YOLO it and think, it'll be fine because it's not always fine. I'm not sure if I thought like some sort of magical fairy was going to come and somehow shrink the size of those bunny tails. But yeah, I just kept on going. I just was like, I'm going to pour that resin in and we're good to go. Don't do that. Yeah, don't. Just cautionary tale. Don't do that. So I doubled down on my magical fairy coming to adjust the size of those bunny tails. This is the next layer of resin because the idea is if you just keep pouring more and more resin on it, it's going to fix itself, right? I mean, apparently my brain thinks that. So instead of stopping at this point and saying 911, I need some help, I just went ahead and poured the next layer of resin, knowing full well that bunny tail was never going to be submerged. So after I poured the resin, I went, this is a problem. This is not going to work. So I immediately sent off a message to Beverly and to Kathy, and I'm like, I think I need some help. I think I made a mistake. Now, I should have said that I made a mistake like 2 steps before. But, once again, I just thought it was all going to magically work out. So I immediately sent them a message. And I'm like, here's what I did. What do you think? And Beverly, in her infinite wisdom, was like, yeah, just make it into wall art. And I was like, okay. So this tray is now wall art, or it will be when it's finished, because there's literally no way that these bunny tails will be submerged underneath the resin. Could I theoretically take some tape and put it around the edges and like create a dam and pour like a eighth of an inch or a quarter of an inch of resin to encase it? Probably. But you know what? I'm going to go with Beverly's idea and we're going to make this into wall art. It's going to be cute wall art, but it's definitely not going to fall into the tray category. And oh, how this tray just keeps getting better and better and better. There are bubbles around all of the wheat, the bunny tails. They're everywhere. It's like an underwater breathing fest for dried wheat. But you know what? We're going to persevere because I have nothing else to submit for this week. So we're going with the don't do this tray because this was not my best work. So I did print out some words on my Cricut, and let me just share with you. That was also a disaster. I'm telling you, this project has been plagued by disasters, all of my own making. I cut the vinyl twice. The first time I ripped it, yay, go me. The second time I weeded it, it was delightful. And then I did like an offset. So like an offset is where you have a solid color kind of behind, and then you have another layer in front of it that's a little bit smaller in a different color. It just gives it a little bit of extra depth and dimension. So while I was weeding this gold color that's like the forefront, I threw away the background color because I had it with like some other scraps of paper that I had cut out, and I threw it away. And then I tried to retrieve it from the trash, and it was attached to a piece of paper or a piece of tape, and I ripped it again. So I said, the universe is telling me we're not doing an offset. So we're just going to use this really pretty gold foil cutout. So give thanks. 100%. I am so thankful that I got to make this tray and embarrass myself in front of everyone. Actually, that's not true. I'm just appreciative that I get to be a part of this. And you know what? Eventually, I did get the vinyl to work. So that is the victory, right? And I have to say, my favorite part about this tray is literally the give thanks in the bottom right-hand corner. Everything else was pretty much a disaster, but I did like the font and I did like the way it looked. But other than that, maybe not so much. Okay, so I'm going to put another top coat on this because why not? Let's throw another 12 ounces of resin on here and, seal that in. And that way, every time I look at this, I can go, oh, yeah, let's not make that mistake again. And okay, all is said and done. And it's not my finest hour, I will say. But there's some things I do like about it. I love the give thanks in the lower right-hand corner. I think that turned out really pretty. You can see. I don't love the fact that those literally stick up out of the top of the resin. And I could theoretically put some more layers on it, but it already is so unbelievably heavy that I don't even know. As a matter of fact, I was like, you know what? Let's measure this and see exactly how heavy it is. And if you're guessing like 15, 20 ounces, no, take a look at that. It is literally 35 ounces of resin. So many lessons learned this week. I think the biggest takeaway was measure 18,000 times before you start sticking your resin in, and things aren't going to fit in your tray. Measure, measure, measure. Pre-plan. Oh, planning. Yes, I'm going to also take some notes on that. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching this ridiculous video. And I hope that you have a most wonderful holiday and that you'll go check out the other videos in the playlist in the description box below, because I promise you that those videos will be so much better. And, you won't turn out with like a 35-ounce paperweight. Thank you, everyone. And next 2 weeks, so 2 weeks from now, we're doing Gingerbread House. So come check it out. Hopefully that will be so much better. I am really excited about it. So I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.